Hey, you guys. Welcome back to Bright Violet Arts. It is a brand new year, and that means it is time for my 2025 new notebook setup, and I'm really excited about it. This video is a little late coming out. I would have liked to have posted it prior to the beginning of the new year, but I spent a lot of time putting thought into what I wanted to accomplish with this book. So, the production time for it took a little bit longer than normal, but I feel like it was worth it. I feel like I'm going to get a lot more out of this than I have from my previous New Year's setups in the past. So, looking at the notebook itself, this is called Storybook, and it is from Archer and Olive. As you can see, it's just a really beautiful book. I think it's really special. It has this debossed print on the back, and then on the front it's got the debossing with the foil and the detail on the spine. And I don't think I've ever owned a more beautiful notebook. As always with the Arch and Olives, it's going to have a pin loop. It has a elastic strap for closure, and we do have a gusseted pocket in the back for storage, which is nice. And I believe this one has about 192 pages, which is great for 6 months of planning, at least in the style that I plan. I used the Arch and Olive acrylograph paint pens for the majority of the artwork. Also, a few Posca pens, a couple of highlighters by Mildliner. These one's like a very pale beige, and one's kind of a teal smoky blue, and then a couple of fine liners. And I'm going to get started on the nameplate by writing my name in the typical stylized way that I put in every journal, and working that out with some paint pens. I also used some gold scrapbook paper and this like nice textured cream scrapbook paper to make this circle at the beginning. And to be honest, that was a pivot. I messed up the initial design I put there, so I just covered it up with some scrapbook paper, and I was off and rolling again. I have the 6 months of the year that this notebook will cover. I had some nice gold foil stickers that I used there, and now I'm getting into the main design with my paint pens. For my color palette, I am inspired by the look of the cover of the notebook. It's a couple of different shades of green, and it's also got some gold on it, and then you can see the gold foiling, the stamp design on the inside cover, and those shapes and the greenery, the leaves, that's what inspires most of the artwork for all of the pages that I'm going to be making today. In addition to the leaves, I'm also adding in some like random swirly designs, um, little fleur-de-lis kind of shapes and sparkles, just because I saw these in the intricate nature of that cover design, and I wanted to replicate a lot of those shapes for a cohesiveness with the overall design of the notebook. Originally, I intended to just keep the notebook color palette like kind of green and gold, but I realized that I wanted a little bit more contrast, so I added like a dusty kind of light teal. And I felt like that completed the colorscape that I was envisioning. So I was happy with just that one additional color. The sticker set that I used for the months of quarters 1 and 2 on this cover also had a bunch of stars, and I just thought they looked so cute. So I used every single one of them up and put them all over all the random empty spaces. And then at this point, I wanted to add some gold watercolor because I love the look of a gilded gold watercolor over top of a gold paint pen. I think it adds to the luster for sure. It gives it so much more shine, but it also gives a smoother surface and just a cleaner, almost three-dimensional kind of look. It's like almost a little bit puffy if you put a couple layers of the watercolor on, because it is an opaque watercolor. So I love gold metallic watercolor. And here I am making a quote page to put on the inside cover here. And because the notebook is called Storybook, that's the design name from Archer and Olive, I wanted to recognize that with the motivational quote that I like to start the year with. So what I chose is a quote. It says, "Life itself is the most wonderful fairy tale, And it is attributed to Hans Christian Andersen, who is or who was a Danish writer, but he wrote like all kinds of things like plays and stuff, but he's best remembered for being a fairy tale writer. So I thought he was like the perfect uh, person to start the book off with a quote. And here's a quick final look at the completed cover page. And next, I'm going to move on to my future log, which is starting off here with this waterproof archival ink by Ranger. I'm using it to stamp out the first 6 months of the year on the first page. This will be a 2-page spread, or like a 2-spread setup. I don't know what to call it, but it's 2 spreads, 4 pages, and it's going to cover the entire 12 months of the year. So the future log is it's a parking lot. If you are new to bullet journaling and you've not used this page before, this is where I will put future appointments as I make them. Like, let's say it's January and I'm making a doctor's appointment for April. Well, at this point, I would not have yet made my April calendar set up, so I need a place to put that. And that's what the future log does. It's a parking lot for all the future dates I have for this year. So I'm setting that up. I'm using my beige mild liner highlighter just to add a little bit of color to the calendars. And the reason I can do this is because I did use that archival waterproof ink from Ranger. So that prevents the ink from smearing when I go over it with a water-based ink, like what, is in that highlighter. To decorate this spread, I am using a thick olive green, or I think it's called khaki green, is the Posca color that they call this. It's a PC5M size paint pen, which is one of their larger sizes. So it's pretty thick. And the reason I need it to be thick is because I'm going to go back over it with other colors after the first layer is dry. And that's going to give like dimension and interest to the design. So starting out with the green for most all of the shapes. But of course, I want that gilded gold shine, so I'm going to move back in with my gold paint pen for a lot of the smaller shapes that I intend to cover again with watercolor after they're done. I'm going over top now with the different colors, and I'm filling in some of the shapes with the various colors of green I pulled from my Archer and Olive acrylograph collection, which just works so nicely over that thick olive line with the big pen. And then, I wanted to include those stars again. I was out of the star stickers, so I just had to draw them in myself the old-fashioned way. But I love the way that first page of the future log looked. So I'm moving on to the second half of it, and it is going to be very, very similar in structure. I am making a additional section here for 2026 and beyond, because I may, perhaps have some dates that schedule out past the end of this year, and I just want to have a small area to put those. So here I'm showing just my pencil sketch. This is a design that is being copied shamelessly straight off the cover of the book. The center design of the Storybook cover has a shape like this, and so I tried to replicate it in pencil. It did help to draw some guidelines so I could keep my curves sort of straight and symmetrical. But now I'm going to fill in the leaves and just let you see the sketching process for how I doodle these little designs. And then I will fill it in, of course, with the same colorscape that I've been using throughout the book. One thing I want to share about the Archer and Olive acrylograph paint pens is that they have the best color selection that I have ever encountered. And I use paint pens a lot. I do a lot of artwork outside of just bullet journaling. And these just come in the best colors. They have all kinds of like subtle colors, and it's not just a mix of primaries like you get with a lot of other brands. The Archer and Olive color selection is definitely one of the best that I have ever seen. And I highly recommend these pens. If you want to make an Archer and Olive purchase, feel free to take 10% off your purchase at checkout with my discount code. It's Bright Violet Arts 10, and I will put that in the description box below. Moving on now, this is going to be a page for goals. I'm using the SMART goal system, which means that these goals are going to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. I will say at this point in the page, I liked the doodles that I had going on, but I did not like how I had written like the acronym for SMART goals. I didn't like my handwriting, and I have a quote below, a motivational quote from Picasso, actually. It's a great quote, but I did not like how I had written it, so I'm just covering that with glue, and once again relying on some scrapbook paper to cover up a mistake and pivot. The quote actually reads, "Our goals can only be reached through the vehicle of a plan in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act." I'm also typing out my acronym for SMART goals here so it'll look a little neater on the page. And I have divided the next page into quarter one and quarter two. I'm just going to set like one SMART goal for each quarter. It's not going to be a list of like everything I've ever wanted to achieve this year. It's not going to be like that this year. So I'm going to come back to that in a second. First, I want to talk about this Distress Oxide ink. This is a creamy ink that brushes onto the page. I love it so much for bullet journaling. I did not have the exact shade that I wanted, so I'm going to blend kind of a gray with a teal, and that's going to give me the color that matches the pens that I'm using. There's a few different kinds of like applicators or methods to apply this Distress Oxide ink to paper. I like these little brushes. They are available in different sizes. You can get really small ones if you're doing a little detail area, different shapes. But I like the brushes. They also have like some sponge tip applicators. They're like little round spongy discs that go on a handle and they pop off so you can change them for different colors. I don't like those as well. I don't get as much coverage or control with those. So I recommend the brushes if you are interested in trying Distress Oxide and you haven't tried it before. As you can see, I'm just going right over the top of the Distress Oxide background with my paint pen and my metallic watercolor, just like I would with the paper. Once that ink is dry, the Distress ink, it is going to have like a papery feel. It only takes about 5 minutes to dry. And if I'm really in a hurry, I might hit it with a heat gun, or a hair dryer. But like 5 to 8 minutes and you're good to go if you want to paint on top of it. The page that I'm working on right now is a tasks and ambitions page. And like I said before on the SMART goals page, that was not going to be the place for me to list every single thing that I want to accomplish all year long. This page is that place. So I'm just going to like go bananas on my task. It's going to be everything that I can think of that I would like to do in 2025. Everything from like big projects and chores. Like I want to paint my daughter's room. Another thing might be like there's a new restaurant I want to try, or maybe I want to, lighten my hair or try a different hairstyle. So those are the kinds of things that I'm putting on this task list. And since it is a Dutch door, I should have plenty of room to write about, I don't know, maybe like 60 tasks or so, I think is what I have room for here. I also filled up a lot of space with motivational quotes just about getting things done. So that added, I think, to the overall aesthetic of the page. And they're good reminders for me to just keep, top of mind throughout the year about not wasting my time and trying to get more done this year than I maybe have in past years. So I'm moving on to the next page now, and this is going to be a little bit of like soul searching, I guess. This is going to be a page that I'm calling Character and Personal Growth. It is another Dutch door spread, and I am putting in a whole bunch of quotes on the Dutch door. These are all things that I spent some time looking up and finding like quotes and sayings that meant something to me, just in terms of what I consider to be attributes of strong character. And that's something that I want to work on this year is character and personal growth, as the name of this page suggests. And then I've got a quote here about integrity is choosing to practice our values, not just profess them. So the idea behind this page is that I want to, build my character with some general rules for living, which are the ones that I put on the Dutch door flap. But then I'm going to talk here in text about the difference between a value and a principle. So what the definition says that I found to separate these two concepts for me is that a value is a personal belief that you hold dear. A principle is external, and it's a guiding compass for acting in compliance with your values. So I've included a section here to identify like 5 values that I consider to be the most important in my life. So some examples of values would be like, honesty, family, frugality, humor, just different things like that. And then over here, I have some lines for free journaling that are just going to include a place to identify behaviors and principles that will help me live out those values. Here's a look at how that page turned out in the end. And if you're curious about the rules for strong character that I've put on the Dutch door, I am going to put those in the description box just in case you're looking for motivational quotes for your journal, because I think there's some really good ones in there. And if you're interested, you can take a look. For the next group of pages, these are going to be like lists and trackers that I'll try to keep up with throughout the entire 6 months of the journal. The first page is for my weight. I take my weight every Monday morning. I just do it one time a week and I write it down on this chart, and then there is space at the bottom of that page so I can put the overall change from the first week of the year to the last week of June. The second tracker over here is for workouts, and I'm using the Alistair method just to keep that kind of compact so it doesn't take up the whole page, and that way I can still have a little decoration here. I will just mark the square that corresponds to the date anytime I go and get a proper workout. And of course, I do have another motivational quote here and a place to tally my total number of workouts for this time period. There's a look at how it turned out. And moving on now, this is a gift list page and a shopping page. Naturally, I have another quote typed out at the top and a little decoration. And I'm going to split this into 3 sections. I've got one, like the biggest box is for my young daughter, because I'll probably buy her more gifts than anybody else. And then I have a smaller box for my husband, and I have another box that I'm just going to call FAM as a general term for friends, family, associates that I might have an occasion to do some gifting for. On the shopping side, I've got one column for my wish list, just like personal things that I might want. And then one section here for studio. That's like for my work. That's like for art supplies and things I might need for my studio. So that's about it for this page. I will add check mark boxes with my stencil here just so I can indicate if something has been purchased or not. But that's pretty much going to do it for this page. It's pretty simple, but it is a very useful page. And I pretty much include it in all of my bullet journal setups because I do find it to be handy throughout the year. All right, this is the next tab in this section. And this is my daily chores routine. So these are the tasks that I've identified that I want to do 7 days a week as soon as I get up. And then on the other side, I'm going to have my weekly cleaning projects, stuff that, I can get done a little less frequently, but I still want to mark it off every time I do it. So I'm making sure to keep up with it. So again, I'm going to have a list here of every Monday, all the fiscal weeks for the 6 months of this notebook. And I am going to, of course, add another quote as I do. And then at the top of that chart, I'm going to list all of the weekly cleaning tasks that I would ideally like to get done. So this will just be a place to mark those off. And I don't think that I finished the whole list. I deliberately left some blanks toward the end of the chart because I may come up with some additional chores that I want to add as time goes on through this journal. There is one more tabbed page that I left blank because I may want to add, again, another page perhaps that I haven't thought of yet, but something else to track and list. So that's going to take us to a final flip through of this notebook, and I hope you enjoyed watching the setup process with me as I created it. I really love this book. I think it's quite pretty, and again, I think the cover of the notebook from Archer and Olive is very special, and I really love the fairy tale style detailing on it. If you enjoyed the video today or got some kind of value from it, I do hope that you'll click like and subscribe, of course. And you can find more of my journal and some of my other art projects as well on Instagram. I'm at Bright Violet Arts over there as well. If you made it to the end of the video, I would love it if you left a little leaf emoji in the comments, or just share any feedback that you have. If you have questions about the supplies or materials or anything that you want to say about the video today, I would love to know about it. So you can contact me there and I will do my best to get back to you. Thank you again so much for checking out my channel today and visiting Bright Violet Arts. I hope you have a wonderful new year. I hope 2025 is good to all of us, and I hope to see you again soon in my January setup video. And of course, if you have any theme ideas for January or future themes that you'd like to see me try on this channel, I would love to know about those in the comments as well. I'm always looking for your input on things that you would enjoy watching in the bullet journaling style that I create. So until next time, again, have a great new year and happy journaling.